Hello students, welcome to today's video where we will study a fantastic piece of prose which is a part of our syllabus. A Shady Plot by Elsie combines the thrills of a supernatural theme with dry humor that makes the story a very interesting read. Before we start with the story, let us first learn a bit about the author. Elsie was an American writer who specialized in supernatural stories. She herself loved to read stories which would get over in one sitting. So, when it came to writing, she practiced the same. A Shady Plot and Hat are her most popular works. Her writings are mostly humorous and sarcastic. Have you ever written a story maybe for your school magazine or even for recreation? The odds are that at one point or the other, you had got stuck in the process, clueless about how to continue the plot. This innovation, known as the writer's block, has plagued authors for centuries, probably from the time men wrote stories on clay tablets. The story starts with one such writer, John Hallock, who has no idea about how he should write a ghost story. Oddly, John always came up with good horror stories, even though he didn't like writing them. Also, the genre of horror stories have always been hugely popular. This made the editor, Mr. Jenkins, commission him to write another one, keeping in mind the huge popularity of the genre. This time, Hallock struggled with his writing. Eventually, he started praying to the universe to help him out. Almost as an answer to his prayers, a ghost of a lady with big, fishy eyes and bone-rimmed spectacles appeared out of thin air. Hallock almost jumped out in shock, with the dark room full of shadows adding to the element of surprise. The ghost explained that she was the reason behind his moments of inspiration. Hallock was deeply disgusted by the idea that this ghost apparently whispers plot ideas to him. She continued to explain how she once was a writer who understood the difficulties of the profession. Indeed, it was this experience that led her to form an organization with like-minded ghosts. This organization of ghosts tried to help writers get out of creative blocks. But then, she informed him in a tough voice that the ghosts are withdrawing their support. Many people are now using Ouija boards and summoning them from the other world with stupid questions. The organization had gone on a strike because of this. The ghost informed Hallock that she would continue to help him only if he managed to prevent his friends and family from using an Ouija board. Imagine being at the beck and call of a 5-year-old child who keeps pestering you with stupid questions, and you are forced to answer them. The ghosts probably felt the same way. At that time, Ouija boards were used by the gentry to summon spirits for answering their ridiculous questions. So, it wasn't a surprising fact that the ghosts were sick and tired of this. Unfortunately, Hallock's wife Lavinia, who often had impulsive shopping sprees, bought an Ouija board the very same day. Hallock tried to convince her to return the board, but in vain. Lavinia manages to involve Hallock in one of her tea parties, where all her friends had an Ouija board each. Mark how the narrator describes the Ouija party. He is visibly tensed, expecting the ghost whom he had met the other day to appear any moment. However, the mood of the party is feisty. It is completely free of the nervousness which grips the narrator. This is how the writer uses dry humor to describe the ambience of the party. The room was full of women, most of them elderly, whom I recognized as belonging to my wife's book club. They were sitting in couples, and between each couples was a Ouija board. The mournful squeak of the legs of the moving triangular things on which they rested their fingers filled the air and mixed in with the conversation. Other comic moments and observations punctuate the narrative of the story. For instance, this is how the narrator describes his wife. "My wife is never so pretty as when she's doing something she knows I disapprove of." Against his will, the narrator finds himself seated at the board with Miss Hinkle as she communicates with the spirits. This is the very opposite of what the ghost wanted, and she is naturally enraged. So, she decides to have a revenge. The ghost communicates through all the Ouija boards in the parlor. She makes it appear like Hallock is having an affair with a woman named Helen. Lavinia's friends are eager to believe anything for the sake of gossip. They excitedly discuss the scandal, leaving her red-faced. Things start going downhill for poor Hallock. His wife decides to leave him after this incident. It was at this point that the ghost appears. While they are arguing, Lavinia enters the room to inform him that she is leaving. The maid is terrified of the Ouija board. She refuses to associate herself with the supernatural activities she witnessed in the house. The narrator shouts that he will gladly burn the Ouija board. Hearing this, the ghost shows herself to his wife. Oddly, Lavinia is not scared. She is actually pleased that the ghost is not the famed Helen of Troy. The ghost disappears for the last time, revealing her identity as the Helen of Troy, New York. Hallock and Lavinia reconcile. Hallock realizes that all these events could serve as a fantastic plot for his horror story. He sits down to write his story for the magazine at that very moment. The horror genre consisting of ghosts and the paranormal generally tends to frighten or terrify us. The author, however, takes such a theme and ingeniously adds elements of humor. It makes us laugh all along instead of scaring us out of our wits. That is all for today. Over the next 2 videos, we will quickly recap the story and try to answer a few questions from it. Goodbye.